Madam Clerk, you ready? Yes, sir. Okay. We're going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners meeting this April 2nd, 2024 at 5:01 p.m. Have a roll call. Commissioner Floyd.
Here.
Commissioner Burdette. Absent. Commissioner Corbett's here. Commissioner Deloach.
Here.
Commissioner Loper. Absent. Commissioner Kiefer.
Here.
We do have a quorum. I'm going to ask everyone if they please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Gracious Father, we are so thankful again to be here tonight to hear the business of this county, this great place that we live, that we call home. We are so blessed by all that you have provided for us here. We pray that tonight, as we hear the business of this county from our staff and from our constituents, that you give us wisdom and discernment that we might make those decisions that are good, pleasing to you and good for them. We ask for your guidance in all this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So that brings us to our agenda approval tonight. Are there any corrections or additions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and board members, we do have one change under new business. That's item number 8, consideration to approve the solid waste management plan as completed by Alliance Consulting Engineers. Staff is requesting to postpone this item until the, let me see what that date is, until the April 16th meeting.
I have a question on another item too.
Yes, sir.
Could be a bad question, but I noticed on item number 18, under Planning Board, for District 5, I notice it reads, rezoning request to R1 from AR1 for commercial and business opportunities.
Should be B1.
Should it be B1?
It B1.
Okay.
So that's a typo. So that should be
But that's
B1.
just on the agenda. It was, I'm
It's
sure
correct in all of the material.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I
Thank
noticed
you.
that too. Good catch.
Okay, and there are no other changes.
All righty, well, should we note that item, since it is on the agenda, to be B1, probably?
I think if you just read it that way, when that item comes up, you're fine. It's
Okay,
read and
sounds
correct.
good. So we have our agenda with one correction, which will be the postponement of item number 8 under new business to April 16th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve with that one amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Kiefer, second, by Mr. Deloach, to approve with that one change. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, we have our agenda. We have the minutes before us for March 19, 2024, or they were given to us before the meeting. Are there any corrections or additions, or a motion to approve as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd, to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, the minutes are approved unanimously. Welcome everyone tonight to the meeting. Comments to this in this meeting shall pertain to agenda items only. Should you wish to make remarks, come to the microphone, state your name very clearly so we can have a record of that, and then begin to speak at that time. Keep your comments, if you can, 2 to 3 minutes. That's very helpful so that everybody gets a chance to participate that would like to participate tonight. The agenda packet for this meeting is on the county's website. Any additional documents presented at the meeting shall be submitted to the clerk for receipt, recording, distribution to the Board of Commissioners. So if you have some documents during this meeting or planning, you wouldn't bring them to us, bring them to our clerk, and she'll document them, and then she'll distribute those as we need. And with that, we're going to begin with a presentation from Deal, Lanier, Proctor, and Blosser CPAs of our annual audit.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnes,
Did you
Finance
leave us and go
Director.
to work for somebody else?
I know, they hired me, so here I am. No, I was just going to introduce Kay Proctor, CPA,
Okay.
from the CPA firm. As you all know, the previous meeting, we had the financial statements were wrapped up and presented to the board. and she's here tonight to answer any additional questions and to kind of give a general overview of the financial statements. So with that, Kay Proctor, CPA.
Welcome, Ms. Proctor.
Good evening, everybody. And I apologize for my conflict at the last meeting and the fact that I was not able to be here, but I'm glad to see you guys tonight and to get out of the office during April. So as Mark indicated, I know there were some questions related to the custodial accounts and the fiduciary funds. And he asked me to also give just a very brief overview of the financial statements. And I know he gives a very in-depth review, so by very brief, I'm going to be extremely, extremely brief. Just a brief overview. As you know, our opinion was unmodified, meaning we feel these financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And I'm just going to point out a few things on page 14 and 15, which are your government-wide accrual basis, full accrual basis statements. If you'll look, just focusing on the primary government, if you'll look at the total column that's in the middle, you'll see that the total assets for the county as of the end of fiscal year 23, $313,636,000. That increased by approximately $23.1 million, or 8% from the prior year. Moving down, you'll see your liabilities section. You do have current and long-term liabilities. Your current liabilities towards the middle of the page were at $36,823,000 approximately. Your liabilities increased by about $2.9 million, or also 8% from the prior fiscal year. Coming down, you'll see you also have your long-term liabilities. These are the only statements that present long-term liabilities on governmental financial statements. Most of them are modified accrual with a current economic flow basis. So if you look, you'll see your total long-term liabilities, $52,810,000, about 2/3 of the way down the page. So your long-term liabilities actually decreased by $10,789,000. So that's a great thing. You have a rising trend in assets. Your current liabilities, which are usually more of a timing type issue, they're changing in correlation to your current assets over this fiscal year, and a big dent in your long-term debt. So your long-term debt decreased from the prior year by $10,800,000, or 17%, and primarily due to scheduled bond payments. So if you look at the bottom, you'll see your total net position for the primary government, $223,371,000. And that is an increase of approximately $31 million from the prior year. Of that $223,000, you will see that $27,564,000 is unrestricted and available for just regular operations. You have a significant amount invested in capital assets, which is very normal for a government of this size. Capital projects, that's going to be your SPLOST funds. You've got your unincorporated service area. Small amount for debt service, and then other purposes, that's going to be your special revenue funds that are restricted in nature. Just very quickly, on page 15, the statement of activities. If you look at the first column, towards the middle of this page, you'll see the total expenses for the primary government for the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2023, $84,277,000. And that's compared to $71,951,000 in the prior year. So that's an increase of about 17%. The good news is you also had increasing revenues that made up for that. So you'll see that our total, if you look down at the bottom, the total change in net position, again, 3 lines up from the bottom towards the middle, $31,045,000. And that is compared to $31,602,000 in the prior fiscal year. So your change in net assets is very comparable to the prior year, even with the increase in expenses. Okay, if it's okay with you and there are no questions, we'll just go ahead and talk about the custodial funds. Those are on page 75 of your financial statement. And when Mark told me there were some questions related to this, I went over with him a new GASB implementation that happened for the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2021. So some of you may already be familiar with that. I would have discussed it for the audit of the fiscal year that ended in that year. I probably didn't talk about it much, the net position of fiduciary accounts in the last fiscal year, if it didn't, especially if it didn't change a lot. That's not one we normally go over a lot. But I'm going to read my note from page 38 of the fiscal year 21 financial statements. For the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2021, the county has implemented GASB Statement 84 fiduciary activities. This statement clarifies the definitions of the 3 existing fiduciary fund categories associated with trusts that meet the specific criteria and establishes a new custodial fund category for all other fiduciary activity not required to be reported within the trust funds. All of the county's fiduciary activity is custodial and has been reflected as such. The statement also requires that certain amounts be recognized as liabilities only when a demand for resources has been made or when no further action, approval, or condition is required to be taken or met by the beneficiary to release the asset. Therefore, a restatement was required to the net position for custodial funds in the following amounts. And we actually had a $575,000 restatement at the beginning of that fiscal year for that GASB implementation. So I know there was also an increase that was pretty significant, especially in the clerk of courts. But basically what makes this up, for example, in the sheriff's department is going to be the cash bond account. So it's a little bit different, the cash bond account, than your regular sheriff's custodial account where fees come in and then fees go out. As soon as those fees go in, they're really automatically due out to somebody else. The sheriff has a responsibility automatically. There is no further action that is necessary for him to be required to pay that out when he does his disbursements the next month. Cash bonds are different. Cash bonds, when the case is finished and when that is all closed out, at that point in time, the cash bond is released. So there's an additional action necessary, and that's the difference. In your clerk of courts, it's going to be primarily
Can I ask you a question right quick?
Yes, sir.
On that one? So like cash bonds, they wouldn't be in the net position though, would they? They'd be up here and due to other entities or individuals, right?
They would actually be, they would be in the net
So
position.
you're changing that to the net position versus a liability that we're holding a restriction.
That's right. So the amount that's in the liability account, the whatever circumstances are required for that, whatever action is required for those funds to be released, at that point in time, it's recorded as a liability. Until all of those conditions are met, it's restricted net position, if you will. Now, keep in mind, the net position on these financial statements does not consolidate up into the government-wide statements for custodial funds. So it's not included in your government-wide statement of net position in the front.
Right.
So the bigger one is the clerk of courts for the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2023. And in June, just prior to fiscal year end, there was a $750,000 deposit in the registry account for a condemnation. So that's why that account increased so much during the fiscal year.
Okay. So what you're saying is that none of these $1.1 million in the net cash position are funds that haven't been distributed
No, sir.
from these agencies?
No, sir. These are registry accounts, vital record account, passport account. Let's see, what else?
Well, vital record counts is an agency fund that should be distributed, right?
Well, it's vital records, the rules on it are a little bit different. Vital records, are basically the probate judge's revenue at their discretion, and sometimes it's given to the county as well. So there's still an action, a disposition requirement for that. Once that fee comes in, it's not immediately due out to the county and other agencies.
Okay.
But I
And
thought we got a
passports is
material
similar.
finding because there was a balance.
We did on the,
Misunderstanding.
It
we
was-
did on the tax commission.
Yes, sir.
But we didn't on that was one of my questions, why didn't we get it on the clerks if there's $1.1 million, if there's any of
Yeah.
that, or fines or forfeitures, but none of that's fines or forfeitures?
No, sir. That's all related to the registry account or funds held by the clerk of courts that are awaiting disposition.
In the registry court, it's where monies have been deposited either by us or someone else or whatever, that's put into an account while it's being adjudicated.
That's right. And there's actually a schedule that's in our work papers that shows what funds are held in that account that ties to the account balance.
It'd be good. It might be good to give Mark a copy of that
Sure,
schedule. That'd be
sure, we can
great.
absolutely do that.
Okay. Well, that helps. That makes me feel a lot better. Thank you.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. I understand, and it was that way for a long time, where everything that was reported in the custodial or fiduciary or whatever they were called at whatever point in time, it was assets and liabilities with a zero net position, and just GASB decided to make that change, so.
Sounds good. I've got a couple of questions. I don't want to take up too much time of the board, but I want to cover some things to make sure we get it on record and maybe do some things a little different in the future. One is I talked with our manager about a pre-audit communication with him interview and then an exit interview with our manager. And those things didn't take place this year.
Okay.
Is there a reason for that? Because here's what I found when I was doing audits. You have certain things you want to do that we got to do, right?
Right,
But certain things for 4 or 5 years, no findings or whatever. But sometimes management has some things that I'd like for you to look into. We might could shift our audit schedule and what we do so it makes it a little more service-oriented.
sure.
I didn't know if there was a reason why we're not doing the pre-audit interviews and the exit interviews.
Well, and we do it indirectly, but, you know, we're primarily, a lot of times, and you're right, we should be communicating with the county manager as well. A lot of times, we're doing that through the finance director on an ongoing basis, and sometimes even throughout the year. And so we can definitely make that change, but we're making that communication with management through the finance director, and I agree with that.
Well, that'd be good. I'd really like to see. that
Absolutely.
that connect with our manager, and then at the end of the audit, go over any findings and concerns or whatever. So the things that you raised at the beginning of the audit, you can see that they've been addressed.
Sure.
That'd be good. Another thing is on the water and sewer.
Yes, sir.
Got some questions there we might want to look at, and I'll be real brief so you can get with Mark on this. We've got a category called operating expenses, but we buy almost $2 million worth of water from Savannah that we then sell, we buy it wholesale. It would seem that would be a cost of goods sold, and right now it's an operating expense. Is that something we should look at to get a better determination, like, water we purchase, and then water we resell?
Bear with me and let me get to that
On
page.
page 26. I'll tell you what I'm looking for here, as part of this, really more detail that helps us use our audit more of a tool to manage our county. And it'd be good if this commission could look and say, how much water did we purchase? What did we sell it for? How does that tie into the rate we're getting? Is there any discrepancies there? But what I'm looking at here, it says purchase for services.
Right, right, and
Probably got EOM engineering in it, it's probably got water purchases, and those two, to me, one's professional service and one's actually a cost of goods sold.
right. And, as you know, you have your management financial statements, your internal financial statements, and then you also have your audited financial statements. So as a general rule, normally the expenses for your proprietary funds, government is a little bit different, and they're put under operating expenses. Now, I don't mind at all looking at the GASB financial statement guides to see if that's something we can move up and have another line called cost of goods sold. It's just, as you know, GASB's a lot different than FASB in a lot of different ways, and statements have to be in a prescribed way. So I just need to make sure that it falls within the financial statement guidelines for the audit. But absolutely, in your internal financial statements, it makes sense
Well,
to do that.
I think it would fall with GASB to have cost of goods sold, but check that and make
But
sure.
I'll be glad to look at it.
Because I'd like to see more detail. I'd like to see the professional services broke out into operating. I think the board could appreciate that. And then actual, where we just selling stuff wholesale, get in there. I wanted to talk to you guys about looking at more detail, because we're fixing to get into where we have reuse that we are selling to Orthor, reuse to our individuals. Lots of times on the revenue, it'd be good to have charge for services. What do we sell our water for? What do we sell our sewer for? Our reuse for? And if there's major customers, I know we can add that with GASB. That detail will be very beneficial to us as we start comparing year to year. We do have internal statements, but these audits become really a document that's going to be a good tool for management.
And the other thing that can be, that we can consider, and again, we'll look and see what the parameters of the statements are, but if there's further information that's needed, I mean, there's nothing to say that we can't do additional schedules to go with, to be presented when the audit's presented, whether it be as RSI or something that we work with Mark to present separately from the audited financial statements at the same time.
Right, that's gonna take some communication up front before we get into the audit, and that's something I think I mentioned to Mark the other day and Tim as well. I'd love to see more detail for the water and sewer. In other words, it may be, like you said, that rolls up. You got the one combined statement or consolidated statement, but probably should be a water and a sewer somehow, and a sanitation, because these are really growing, particularly the reuse. And then we can actually we can set rates.
Yeah.
And guys, we can set rates better if we can look at how does it look to the audit and so forth.
Sure.
So I think that'll be very beneficial. And one last thing, this is not and we really appreciate your firm, what you do. I've known the firm for a long time, but we need probably a little more timeliness on this. We recently got a bond rating of, I can't remember if it's AA, AAA, whatever. We believe we could have got an AA1 if they could have used our current audit, because it looks really good.
I understand.
And so, but we didn't get that. We still got a fairly good bond rate, but we don't know how it impacted that. But I would encourage you, if we could get this audit within that 6 to 7 months, I know 6 months is the thing, we get extension for 6 months.
Right.
It'd be nice to get it at least in January.
Right.
Then we could use this for our bond reviews. Does that meet the timeline, you think, for bond reviews in the future? Or should we have it by the end of December?
Well, this schedule was set in place simply because we were having an issuance.
Right.
But on the annual bond review, I believe that takes sometime in December, doesn't it? Or, yeah. But they, obviously, I don't think they'll have one this year, since they just did one, an interim one related to the bond issuance. So I think generally they do it at in the fourth quarter to review.
Okay. And so if you help us with that, and the other thing is, I want to say that I support this. I know as a previous auditor, these things cost extra money, and you're on a bid contract price. So as you have these interviews with the management, make us aware of, hey, we can provide more detail, we can just, but it's gonna cost a little extra. Don't feel like you can't come back to us for a contract amount. I'd rather have the better, highest information that we can get as fast as we're growing, because I do understand what it's like to be hit with that and think, well, there's my budget, I'm gonna lose money on this county
understand.
audit.
And I would say, let's just meet and let's talk about it, and let's think, because you have to think about the users of the financial statement as a whole.
Right.
And a lot of times your audit is really geared towards, y'all are great at using your audit for information, but a lot of times it's geared towards your outside users. And sometimes if you have too much detail, it's hard for them to pull maybe out what they need as much. So I think there's a way that we can mix it so it's just right for all the users.
I think so too, because there's another item I mentioned to Mark about, I'd like to see some comparative data. I know these statements are getting wide, but it really helps me, and probably helps the commission, if they can look at comparative this year, last year. There's really not any of that in here. It's more budget to actual. One quick question, do we have to put the original budget? I can't remember, is that a GASB requirement?
Yes. And you'll see as you go through the financial statements, you'll see for any of them that have budget amendments, you'll see an original budget and a final budget
Right,
column.
and you have to put both those columns required by GASB.
It is,
I
yes,
didn't know
sir.
if you could get rid of the original, because it really doesn't mean anything to us, because we approved all those amendments through the year, so we know the final budget's our budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much, Roger.
All right, any other questions?
Good job, thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, we're going to move to our consent agenda. We have 4 items on our consent agenda. Item number 1, these are items that we won't discuss. We've already reviewed them, and they're pretty standard. So we'll just take a motion at the end of all the items. Item number 1, consideration to approve to review year 3 of an agreement with GMAS Incorporated for the maintenance of rural land schedules and methodologies for 2023 to 2025. Item number 2, consideration to approve to renew lease agreement with FP Mailing Services to allow for postage meters at multiple locations. Item number 3, consideration to approve to extend the indefinite delivery contract, IDC, for engineering and architectural services through June 30th, 2024. Item number 4, consideration to approve to accept a grant award from the Coastal Regional Commission Area Agency of Aging. That is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Floyd, to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. We have one item of unfinished business, and this is second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Penny West to rezone 5 acres located at 3768 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2 to allow for new home sites, map number 339, parcel number 6 in the 3rd District. This is postponed from 3/5/24 to 3/19/24, and then we're hearing it tonight. Is there a motion to approve the second reading?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Move to new business. Item number 1 under new business, consideration to approve Resolution 24-016 for a general obligation transportation sales tax bond in the amount of $60 million principal for the countywide projects approved in the Transportation Special Local Option Sales Tax, that's T-SPLOST referendum. It was passed November 23.
Good afternoon, Mark Barnes, Finance Director. Staff is recommending approval of the resolution for this new general obligation T-SPLOST bond. This is one that we've come to the board before to talk about. The bond was auctioned this morning, and we have more details, and we have Davenport Financial, our financial advisors are here, and Gray, Pennell, and Woodward, the bond attorneys, are also here. And they're going to be here to answer any questions and go over the details. But first, we have Davenport has a presentation to give on that, and y'all do have a hard copy of that presentation there in your packets.
Will it be on the screen as well?
Yeah, he's just setting it up to do it.
Unfortunately, my computer isn't gonna let me use.
Blocked it, yep.
Sorry about that.
Oh, wait a minute, I have, it's the same presentation
Same
you gave this
presentation
morning?
we sent,
Okay, hold
yeah.
on. I'll get it up on the screen.
Being a regulated industry with the finance world, they try to keep stuff from leaving your computer as much as they can.
Mr. John, good to see you.
All right, almost there.
Can we go ahead and proceed?
Yeah, you can.
Sounds great.
Get started, just take me a second.
Again, great to be in front of you tonight, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Doug Gebhardt. I'm with Davenport and Company, the county's financial advisors. With me today is also Christopher Holt, who's one of our associates, and bond counsel, Stephen Swinson and John Pennell with the firm Gray, Pennell and Woodward. Davenport's had the privilege of working with the county for the last number of months, and today's a culmination of a lot of those hard efforts. We've helped with the bond referendum process, as well as some of the preparation for the rating agencies, as well as amending some of those financial policies to position ourselves best to get that highest possible credit rating. And so what we did today, just to give you a quick market update on where things stand, what you can see is basically over the last year or so, we've been trading relatively flat. And because this is a T-SPLOST bond, we're looking at the shorter end of the yield curve, which is the light green and dark green lines. And so while there's been some inversion, we're not seeing as much here in the municipal market. It kind of peaked towards the end of last year, but as the Fed started to say that they're going to reach their top end of their rates, rates have come down and really began to normalize. And so really since the start of this year, rates have been relatively flat on the short end of the yield curve, which means it was a good market for us to for us to head to market and ultimately sell the bonds. On the next page, what you can see is that we went out, as part of this, we made the recommendation to go out and do a public market sale, as opposed to doing a traditional direct bank loan. And in order to sell the bonds in the public market, we had to go get a bond rating. And so in order to do that, we went out and talked with Moody's, had a good rating discussion with them, and they affirmed the AA2 bond rating. This was last upgraded in September of 2022. And generally speaking, the credit rating agencies like to see 2 to 3 year trends before making any sort of upward momentum. So getting an affirmation as part of that credit review process was really good. As a testament, they didn't see any negatives. But on the next page, you can point out some of the things that they noted in their review. Obviously, they noted a lot of the ongoing economic development that's going on. And some of the things, the expanding tax base, healthy liquidity and reserves that are largely supported by the SPLOST and T-SPLOST, which is ultimately going to be responsible for the repayment. Things that can lead to the upgrade, adding to fund balance, improving that resident income level. And so as some of this economic development comes, we'd expect that trend to continue to rise. And one of the things they did note is that manageable fixed costs. Fixed costs are things such as debt service, pension, OPEB, those types of liabilities are very, very manageable in their eyes, in spite of all the capital plans that we've had undertaken and are going to undertake. They believed it to be very manageable. So we're very proud of the AA2 rating and think the county's on an upward trajectory to get to that next notch, which would then be one below the highest possible rating of AAA. So flipping to the next page, we sold these bonds this morning via a competitive public market sale. And so in a competitive sale, we put it out, a document that's called a notice of sale, which is distributed to any and all potential underwriters that are able to put in a bid. And so when they submit their bid, they put in their combination of interest rates and fees. And to do that, it's something that's called the TIC, or the true interest cost. And so at 10:30 this morning, we accepted the bids, and we ended up receiving 11 bids, which is a tremendous number. For IRS purposes, in order for it to be considered a quote-unquote competitive process, you need 3. So we almost got 4 times. So that means the eyes of the market were really focused on Effingham County today, which is great. And so 11 bids, we're really proud of that. Jeffries LLC provided the lowest TIC, or true interest cost, of 2.86%, which was roughly 1 basis point, or 1/100th of a percentage better than the cover bid. And Baird was actually the last place bid at 3.01, rounded up to 3.02. One of the things that we like about a competitive sale is that you get the sharpest pencil of the day at the given time. We're unbiased as to who actually provided the financing. We just wanted to provide you and the constituents of this county with the lowest possible cost. And so we did that today by awarding the bonds to Jeffries. The next page shows the pricing bids. The principal amounts, that was the $60 million that was approved in the T-SPLOST referendum, and the annual repayment amounts that were included in that documentation. You can see the coupons and the yields on there. The coupons is the interest rate, or the cash flows that the investors receive, but the yield is actually what you'll be repaying. And so in order to get that higher coupon rate that's over the yield, you can see there on the right, the price is over 100 cents on the dollar, or par. And so in order to, the benefit of that is that the investors pay a premium up front to get those higher cash flows. And so by us issuing $60 million today, we're actually able to fund $63.7 million of projects by only issuing $60 million of par amount as a result of that, what we call net original issue premium. The next page shows the final debt service, and you can see that roughly the repayment is $13.6 million per fiscal year. and that ties to kind of the timing of the T-Splost. Once you factor in all of the fixed cost of issuance, rating agencies, advisors, custodians, bond attorneys, county attorneys, the all-in true interest cost was just north of 3% at 3.06. So that will certainly outpace of any of the inflationary costs that you guys are seeing to get some of these transportation projects done throughout the county. So we're really, really proud of that.
So our fee on this is $405,000?
That's the total cost of issuance, yes, sir. So in wrapping up, this morning, again, at 10:30, we received those bids tonight. We're asking you, as the board, to approve the bond resolution, which sets forth the various terms and conditions that I outlined herein. And if there's any legal questions about what's included in that bond resolution, I'm sure John or Stephen would be able to answer those for you. The balance of next week, we're going to be working on getting everything wrapped up, and then on April 16th, the county will have money in the bank to be able to get started quote unquote, moving some dirt on a lot of these projects. Before I wrap up, just want to say a special thanks to the staff, in particular Tim and Mark, for all their work that they've done to get us to this point, and appreciate them. And Davenport appreciates the opportunity to serve as your financial advisor. And with that, I'll pause and answer any questions and turn it over to legal if there's anything that they may wish to add. But again, congratulations on the great result. You should be very proud of the outcome of the sale today.
So am I seeing that we made $3,000 on the financing, $3 million on the financing for projects?
That's right.
That's pretty good. Any questions from the board? Didn't get any comments or?
No, we're good.
And this rate that, we're not forbid, is part of the resolution that we're approving?
That's right. The interest rates are in that resolution. Yes, sir.
Very good. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the general obligation sales tax bond resolution as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Thank you all very much for your work, and this will help us hopefully expedite this work and not have to wait for the 5 years for it to come in. So John, always appreciate your help and support and your team. Thank you. Now it's up to Tim. He's got the money. Very good. All right. Item number 2 is a resolution. Consideration to approve resolution 24-017 to amend the fiscal year budget of 2024.
Mark Barnes, Finance Director. This is a medium-sized budget amendment for several different items. It allocates some funding for the fire and rescue grant funds they received from the Norfolk Southern Railroad to get a drone for the fire department. It allocates funding for the railroad crossing maintenance work that CSX performed per the contract that CSX Railroad has with the Effingham County Board of Commissioners. It allocates some training funds for the new deputy coroner that was approved here recently at a previous meeting. It also allocates some funding to replace some firefighting foam that was used in a couple of recent fires. We have billed some of those businesses for the price of that, but we still had to get the amendment in the budget for it. And lastly, it's to allocate.
Question is, we're going to get that back from where it was used for the businesses? Some of it.
It wasn't just the, they were billed for more than just the fire foam. It was some of the water usage and all these things like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But finally, this allocates funds to replace the broken ice machine at the senior center. They're currently having to ferry ice around from another machine in another part of the county, and this covers that. Staff recommends alternative number 1 to approve the budget for fiscal year
Question,
2024.
discussion, a motion for alternative 1?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Motion by Mr. Loach, second by Mr. Kiefer for alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4 is consideration to approve to adopt.
3.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3. Consideration to approve a purchase order for firefighting agent from Fireline Incorporated.
Yes, sir. This was the budget amendment that Mark spoke of just a few minutes ago.
Do I have a motion to approve alternative 1?
So moved.
We'll make it short for you. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. But thank you, Clint. Appreciate all you do. Item number 4, consideration to approve to adopt a policy containing procedures for the Office of Code Enforcement.
Yes, you presented this at the last meeting, at the workshop as well. Did you have any questions on it?
I've covered my questions with Tim, so I won't belabor.
Good.
There's one area on page 5. It's listing the priority of things that are severity.
Okay.
There is no number 5. I didn't know if that was left out or.
That would be any phone call that we receive that day, we'll go out and do it. I mean, we do phone calls and then
I mean, you got 1, 2, 3, 4,
3, 4,
and
there's no
6,
5?
Yeah.
and then 6.
We'll
Okay.
repaginate
So that
it.
needs
Yeah,
to be,
we can take care of that, yes.
so the motion needs to approve alternative 1 with cleaning up that item, whether
Yep.
it's,
Move 6 to 5.
is that what we're gonna do?
Yep, let's move 6 to 5.
Okay.
And if we need to come back and amend it and add another one, we will do
We're just
that.
gonna move 6 through 12 or whatever it is.
Right.
Right, okay.
Please.
Madam Clerk, you
Is that
got
good?
that in your mind, how to word that? Okay, all right. Any questions, discussions about the policy? I really like this. I think it's gonna be great.
Good, thank you.
Motion?
I make a motion to approve with the noted correction.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Deloach to approve with the noted correction. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, consideration to approve contract 23 ITB 054 with Lavender Associates Incorporated for the Effingham County Gym expansion.
Yes, sir. Allison Bruton, Procurement and Capital Projects Manager. So we did publish an ITB seeking bids for the construction of the gym expansion. This will provide office space for the Recreation Department as well as some community rooms that can be rented out and EMA offices and training space as well. 3 submittals were received, which are listed out on your staff report. Hussey Gay and Bell is the design engineer on this project, and Allbeck Group is serving as program management. All have reviewed the submittals and recommend award to Lavender and Associates, which is alternative 1.
Any questions or discussions for Ms. Allison?
We've had good experience with Hussey Gay Bell and Lavender and Associates, so I think they're a good contractor. And I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd for alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Allison. Item number 6, consideration to approve to terminate the lease agreement with the Meldrum Community Civic Club Incorporated related to Meldrum Park.
Yes, sir. So this lease was originally signed in 1998, and there's no current need for it. The county is working on some improvements to the park, so we are requesting alternative 1.
Questions, discussion, motion?
I just want to make a
Good job.
comment. We've worked with these folks for a while, and they just, their biggest thing is to make sure the name saves the chain. Meldrum, I forget what it had something to do with the terrible acts that happened over there. I told them we'd work with those folks to make sure they're involved in all the design, so I want to thank them for working with us.
Sounds good.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach to approve. Alternative 1, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 7, consideration to approve to ratify and affirm change order number 2 for peak payment for LeMig SAP project.
Yes, sir. So change order 1 was actually awarded previously, which was a deduction in the contract. Change order 2 has been requested to add striping on Old Augusta Road Central from Ebenezer to the gate for the power plant. This is a ratification. The total is $5,605. Staff recommends alternative 1.
Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Floyd, to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item number 8 has been postponed to April 16th, so item number 9, last of new business, is consideration to approve the wastewater master plan completed by Alliance Consulting Engineers.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you recall, I believe it was the fall, we had originally passed this, but upon further review of particularly some of the modeling capacity by our program manager, they had recommended that they update this information. There were also some population and rate projections that were dated, so we had them update those as well. It's been reviewed by myself and by our program manager at Water at Thomas and Hutton, and we recommend alternative one.
Any questions, discussion, or motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Loach for alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. We have about 15 minutes before we can do our planning board, and so we probably have a need for executive session tonight. Why don't we make a motion so we can maybe knock that out and not have to do it at the end of the night?
I'll make a motion to go in executive session to discuss personnel, property, and pending litigation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loach, second by Mr. Kiefer to go in executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, we are in executive session. Just make you aware, we're gonna be back pretty close to 6 o'clock. If you're here for planning boards, we're not gonna make you wait. We're gonna try to take care of that executive session so our staff doesn't have to hang around after our regular meeting. That allows them to go home as well. So give us about 15 minutes, we'll be back. If we can come to order, I'm gonna have a motion to go back into regular session.
I'll make a motion to go back in regular session.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to go back into regular session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, we are back in regular session. So we're gonna move to our planning board and our hearing items, and I believe we have to change some of the agenda rotation here to make sure we do it in the right order. You wanna explain that to us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Samantha Easton, Planner 2. Item number 1 on planning board needs to be moved to after the rezoning and the public hearing and vote for items 10 and 11.
So we're gonna make item number 10 be item number maybe 1A is what you're saying, and then do the sketch plan right behind that, if it should move forward?
Yes, sir, if that's okay with the
Okay.
clerk.
All right, if the board understand, we're taking item number 10, we can't even look at a sketch plan until we see if we have a zoning approved. So we're gonna go to item number 10, and basically, we're just gonna address that one first, then come back to 1 and work our way through the planning board, okay?
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna go to item number 10, and this is a public hearing. Let me pull it up.
Mr. Chairman, that's items 10 and 11.
10 and 11, well, yes, okay. Right, if we can do it, we'll do the second reading as well. All right, item number 10 and 11, if you're here tonight for those, we're going to address those first because zoning has to come before a sketch plan. So the public hearing is open on the planning board recommends denying an application by Simcoe Investment Group LLC as agent for Grace Community Church of Effingham County, Georgia, incorporated to rezone 29.6 acres out of 39.94 acres located on Goshen Road from R1 to PD. To allow for residential development, this is map number 451, parcel number 21 in the 2nd District. And we'll open the public hearing, but before we do that, I want to make a couple of comments. I know that on the, some kind of editorial document out there that stated that the chairman was not independent or had a conflict of interest. That is incorrect. I have conferred in abundance of caution again with our attorney to make sure that there is no conflict of interest just because I go to church at Grace Community Church. I have no financial interest. I don't have any receipt from the property sale, and I have no authority related to that board whatsoever. The one item that was listed on the, I think the Facebook or whatever that editorial was, that I was the agent of registry. Well, I helped start that church some 30 years ago. We filed for a nonprofit federal ID number, and I was put on there. But I have had no leadership in that church for some 14 years. And once again, the requirements is no financial gain, no property investment, and no decision-making authority. And I don't have any of that. So I can sit here tonight fully in compliance with the law and fully represent my constituents and the applicant tonight by presiding over this meeting. So just want to make sure that's clear, and I've confirmed that with our attorney. So with that, we're going to open the public hearing and let you give us the opening.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is proposing to develop an approximate 78-unit detached single-family residential community. The proposed development will have a maximum net density of 4 units per acre. Amenities will include a grass playing field, walking trail, parking space with benches and picnic tables, and preserved public spaces and passive recreation spaces throughout. At the planning board that was held on March 12th, 2024, Mr. Alec Metzer did ask that a couple of the conditions that are placed on the rezoning be removed. 2 of those conditions are that based on similar densities and traffic approved at recent Board of Commissioner meetings, and with comparable traffic improvements being completed before permitting of the subdivision, the suggested start of the subdivision shall be 4th quarter of 2025 or 1st quarter of 2026. So that was something we had spoken with the applicant, and so he asked that that condition be removed. He also asked that a curfew shall also be imposed within the proposed homeowners association for the provided open space amenities from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. He did ask that that condition be removed as well. At the planning board meeting, Mr. Allen Zipper did make a motion for denial due to the density. However, staff does recommend alternative one, which is approval. And that is based on the PD text and the ordinance for Effingham County.
Okay, thank you very much. And so with that, we'll, in a public hearing, if our clerk would set the time, we have 15 minutes for both sides. And then we'll hear from those who are speaking for this rezoning application, if you'd like to come forward. And then anyone else who speaks, you'll have 15 minutes as a whole to speak to it. So anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning?
Is that one?
I'm Alec Metzger with EMC Engineering, working with the developer and the property owners on this project. I have a few things to add. So we're looking at doing a single-family residential subdivision. We chose to do the PD because it's a little bit of a different product with smaller lots than we came to you before, and had I think it was 12 more lots than what we have now. So some of the discussions was how is it going to look from Goshen Road, and so what we did was we pulled it back several hundred feet back away from Goshen Road and left the trees that were there now. So the kind of the first lots will be behind the trees. As part of the sale, also some large oak trees were out there. We've shown them on the plan. Those will be saved and remain. We're providing a 30-foot buffer along Paddleford subdivision with a privacy fence. The buffers along Grace Community Church will be undisturbed and a planted buffer. And then we're providing a 30-foot undisturbed buffer along the railroad. So we dropped it back to 78 lots. That puts the net density at 3.1 units per acre, and the gross density at 2.6 units per acre. So the density is, well below what you would even see in the R5 normal residential zoning. We provide net open space required of 22 is 15%. We provide 22%. The total green space on the property is around 63%. The roads will be public roads, Effingham County water and sewer, street lights. Parking spaces are provided in the driveways for each one of these units, and each one of them have a garage. So we meet the parking requirements, and then we also put some parking scattered throughout the subdivision to provide some additional overflow parking. It will be an HOA that maintains the common spaces, the detention ponds, and then also they will provide maintenance and landscaping for the home, so it'll be uniform and clean and aesthetically pleasing throughout. One of the comments or conditions was about, I think, lighting and children playing in the open spaces at midnight and stuff like that. So the grassy play areas and the fields, they won't be lighted. So it'll be dusk. When it's dusk and dark, people won't be able to play there or use them anymore. That's the reason we wanted that to be removed. Plus, I don't think it's really enforceable. I don't know how you would enforce that. As far as the timing of the subdivision, if we got approved tonight, it would be the rest of this year. We'd probably be looking at starting construction at the first quarter of 2025. it would probably take about a year to go through the process of building the roads and infrastructure and water and sewer pads, going through closeout process to get final plat. So it would probably be the end of, end of 2026 before that would happen. And then depending on, how they phase it, it could be another year for homes to be constructed and sold. So we're looking at, 2027 or 2028 before, the homes would be sold out in there. I do have a picture of kind of what it would look like. I don't know if y'all have that in your package or not.
I didn't see that. Let me just pass it around.
So this is a rendering of kind of what we're projecting the homes to look like. The homes will be roughly around 1,400 square feet and probably sell for around $300,000. I believe that's all I have. Yeah, most of the setbacks, open space requirements, all of that, we use the R5 zoning kind of as a guideline. So I know y'all had done a lot of work on that previously, and that's kind of what we started with on the PD. So be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner Burdette can't be here tonight, but he sent me a couple of questions to make sure of, and I think I can see them in the plan, so I just want to make sure we address those. The first unit will be 450 foot off the Goshen Road?
Yes, sir.
Okay, he wanted to make sure that. And from what I just heard you say, no certificate of occupancy would be issued in 2025. Because he was
No.
concerned about, he wanted to make sure that, one of his big issues was transportation. He wanted to make sure the parkway was built so they could handle any additional traffic, because that, we're also doing some major work on Goshen Road and then the Parkway roundabout. He wanted to make sure all that was in place. And it sounds like you're saying that would be,
Yeah, that's probably right in line with what we're talking about. I think they would be building infrastructure and stuff like that, so I don't think that would be to the end of 2025.
you're not gonna build units and have certificate of occupancy 27, the Parkway be in operation 2 years. Just want to
Yeah,
confirm
yes,
that.
sir, that's-
Okay.
The schedule on the Parkway is summer of 25, right?
Probably September.
First, yeah.
That's what it's looking like now from DOT, the last comments we got. But still, if you go 26, 27, that answers the question that Mr. Burdette had about transportation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It just takes a long time now to, go through the process, and construction takes longer now. Everything takes longer.
Okay. Question?
It looks like there's only one lot that comes up behind any property there on Paddleford. There's quite a gap between those lots and the homes, is that correct?
Yes, sir. We tried to, so some of our original layouts had units up against that property line, and so that was a concern. So we wanted to slide them all as far away from that property as possible. So that's why we have that open area there. So, some of those lots are probably, maybe even 200 feet away from the property line.
Is that going to remain undisturbed?
So this one, we haven't decided yet. We showed it on the plan as being disturbed as a open area.
Okay.
So like a grass play area.
Green
for-
space. That's
yeah.
part of the 63% green space you talked about.
Yes, sir. And then, along that property line, we'll leave a 30-foot undisturbed buffer. If there's any gaps in it, we can plant those back and augment them.
You get the sketch plan later, but you said there's gonna be a fence all the way down. One lot, you still putting the fence all the way down between this and Paddleford.
Yes, sir. All the way down till it hits, the wetlands, and then there wouldn't be a need for a fence.
Any other questions? Here a while ago.
Yeah. think it's the wireless one.
Yeah, don't move.
Sorry.
All right, very good. Anyone else tonight speaking in
lost the
favor
screen.
of this rezoning? There you go, it's there.
Okay.
All right, if you can state your name and, for the record.
I'm Bobby Braswell. I'm the pastor at Grace Community Church. Mission is to pray and have a growing faith in Christ, and so, you know, it's significant to us. We probably had 8 months, I think, from the time that we offered the property to for sale when the county immediately had a moratorium on development, and so there's been a lot of waiting. And our hope, I think, primarily is that when this is decided, it will be on the merits of it and the need, and not so much on emotion. And we understand it's an emotional issue for, you know, for the community and people who live around us. And, you know, we're satisfied that with the county spending $7 million or whatever it's gonna be in expanding Goshen Road and the Parkway and the traffic circles that are gonna give some, you know, relief to the traffic, it'll be, you know, feasible. And so we appreciate the opportunity to be heard, and I thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have about 3 more minutes. Anyone else speaking in favor of this rezoning request that would like to speak tonight? See no one coming forward, I'll change over to those who like to speak in opposition to this rezoning request. And we'll start the clock and give the same 15 minutes. Wait just a second, we're gonna start it so we don't short anybody on their time. There you go. All right, if you state your name and tell us what your concerns are.
My name's Jimmy Blakey. I live at 135 Magnolia Drive, about a quarter of a mile from where this property is, the crow flies. My property is zoned A1 and A2, agriculture 1 and agriculture 2. I got livestock there. Y'all allowing all this development to go on, houses where you can stand between them and spit from one house to the other. It's getting too crowded. It takes me sometimes an hour to go from my house to the grammar school and call it Hillman Road because of the traffic. Y'all are allowing tractor trailers to run Goshen Road, although you got signs at each end, no trucks over class 5. This is gonna create more traffic. And you're gonna say, well, we're getting Effingham Parkway. Well, the Parkway ain't but a 2-lane road. It's gonna be overcrowded if y'all keep on letting people change their land, change their zoning. If you keep changing the zoning laws to where people can build these subdivisions, first thing you know, you're gonna crowd me out because people are gonna get where they don't wanna smell sheep, livestock. So I'm against this. The reason I moved up in was to get away from all that down there in Chatham County. So I don't even know why we even having this discussion because the planning board has already denied it. So why are we even having this discussion? I know what you're gonna say. I should buy the property.
Here from Garden City, other people wanna move up here, Mr. Blakey.
Thank you all for listening.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. If we can keep the applause down, it just takes up time. People get to speak.
I'm James Medlin. We live at 8 Brookfield Court. I don't know if you can see it, but can I?
Sure. Can you show us where you live? What you want to do?
I live right here. And
Okay.
the best I can figure is that first lot there where the house is, that house is going to be somewhere 38 to 46 feet from my back, pool area. And then the next one will also be within 100 feet. And then part of the next property, I guess, would be within 100 feet. Not a really great prospect to have a 2+ story, unit right there. And I don't think that, a 6-foot fence is not going to do anything. And of course, any kind of plantings you do, it'll take years, But that's my personal objection. My overall objection, and I think this has more to do with being a citizen, is if you really think about how close together these houses are, how small that road is that's going to be in the subdivision. If, God forbid, a fire was to go up, these things are going to go like, dominoes before the fire can get in there. And once again, if it happened to be rush hour where you have, like a 70, 80, 100 cars trying to leave at the same time in the morning or come back in at night, that little road that they're wanting to put in the subdivision is not adequate to handle the traffic that they're wanting to have there. They're saying 2 to 3 cars per house. I mean, that's 234-ish possible cars. And the other thing I'd like to say is, to make it quick, we moved 500 miles to be here in May. Had no idea this was going on. I didn't come down here to be a part of this or whatever, but I love it because it's quiet and whatever. But my other concern is the PD zoning. I know that it's convenient, but I think that the county and you guys and the planning board should want them to come to you for variances. Because once they have the PD zoning, they can do whatever they want to do. And if they want to do something that they would have to have for a variance for an R zoning, and you guys wouldn't allow it, see, they're basically taking the power away from the county, from this board and the planning board and the citizens of the county as well. I think that it's a bad idea. I think that, it's build it in an R. Come to the board with variances and let you guys have an oversight. That's what I think. I don't.
Those are good comments. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to speak in opposition? We'll try to get some answers to some of the things. I'm taking some notes to things you've raised. Okay. We won't use the time to do that now.
My name is Robert Dickerson. I live in the Paddleford subdivision. 3 disturbing points about this whole thing is, the first one is the proximity of stormwater retention pond to our well system. I don't know of many retention ponds that are lined to protect against this kind of thing, and it's very close to our water system. I think somebody really needs to take a close look at that. The second item is the way these things are supposedly gonna be constructed, when these trains come by, it's gonna be like a megaphone to the back of my house. My house vibrates now when the train comes by. You can only imagine what it's gonna do to those places right there by the track. It's gonna be even worse than it is where I live. And the third thing, when this Effingham Parkway is finished and people are turning right on Goshen Road to come towards their new subdivision, you're gonna have the distance of about 3 cars, then they got to stop, wait to turn, because the traffic's gonna be heavy going the other way. What's it gonna do? It's gonna back up that traffic all the way to that circle. So these are things that I don't think y'all are aware of, or y'all have investigated, but we have to, because I've lived there for 31 years and I'm too daggum old to move. And I hope that y'all take a close look at what they're trying to do. I think they're putting 78 houses, and it's not gonna be on 29 or 39 acres. There's a lot of property that they can't use. It's more like 78 houses on 7 or 8 acres. And that's gonna mean you better love your neighbor, that's all I can tell you. It's gonna be a little too daggum close for my judgment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else tonight that'd like to speak in opposition? No, ma'am, not from there, you can't. You can come up to the microphone, but this,
I'm handicapped, I just had hip
I can bring the
oh,
microphone.
yeah, we're bringing a microphone to you. I didn't realize you were handicapped. No problem. I apologize. I didn't realize you weren't able to come.
It's okay. I'm Pam Hill, and I live in Powderford also. I believe you all saw the pictures of the homes that's going to be built. Can we see those homes?
I have no objection at all. You want to let it just pass it around?
We would like to see them.
Yeah. If we can give it to we start it with the lady with the microphone, and then
Thank you.
let you just pass it around from there while we're discussing. Need to get it back to the clerk so we can make it a point of record. Okay?
In the meantime, I do want to point out, aren't we making, with regards to Goshen Road, we're putting a center lane in turn.
Yeah, I've got that as a note.
Okay.
I was going to try
All
not to take their time
sure that
to
was-
share. We'll try to go back and address the concerns they have, if we can. Some of them may be legitimate concerns we can address.
Hi, my name's Lee Daly, and I am a resident of Paddleford. A lot of what I was going to ask has been brought up. I was just curious as to what is the actual unit per acre rating for buildable land, as they mentioned. Has the builder discussed that, or is there an amount? I tried to calculate it, and it looked to be greater than 10 units per acre when you use solely the buildable land and deducted the.
I think you're right on that. You want to comment on that? For the actual, that was the comment the gentleman had earlier about.
Right.
It's 29 acres, but the actual buildable land, the 33,600 something square feet per lot is like 10 or 11.
10 or 11,
to that acre.
okay.
That's why they're so close together there.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You would
And,
clarify, want to clarify for you?
Yes, sir. I'm actually going to let Mr. Mesker answer that for you, simply because it is the PD.
Why don't we hold that question? I'll make a note and
Okay,
get the answer
thank
so we
you.
get all the comments first.
And something Mr. Dickerson brought up about the vibration. I was an insurance adjuster for 10 years. I cannot tell you how many claims I investigated for home damage in Garden City along the tracks. When I saw this, I thought, what fool would buy a house and pay $300,000 for a home that close to the railroad tracks? It's unbelievable what the vibration does. I don't know what the builders say, what kind of code there may be. There are more foundation cracks, cracks in the wall, cracks in the ceiling, cracks in the driveway, sinking. Of course, brick exterior doesn't apply here, but cracks in the brick exterior, the fascia, it's bad. And of course, it's not covered by insurance. But so these people should be well aware of that. So that was just one item. Very quickly, I was reading your amendment to Article 5 of the Effingham County zoning ordinance regarding the PD plan development, the R. It does indicate on 5.15.6.2, Section A, the overall site design should be harmonious in terms of landscaping, enclosure of principal and accessory uses, partial sizes, street patterns, and land use relationships. The variety in building types, heights, facades, setbacks, and size of open spaces shall be encouraged. I just happened to notice that, and I looked and I said, there is absolutely no variance at all in these unit designs. They are, as I said at the Planning Commission, they are townhomes under the device of residential. They're townhomes with 2 walls. My girlfriend lives in a townhome in Pooler. The floor plan is identical to this, almost the exact size. So we are building townhomes there with a small, basically 8 foot on each property between them, a total of 16 foot between each home. The home is only 20 feet wide. There's mobile homes that are bigger than that. So. And one last item, item K on this indicated that the proposal submitted should have a proposed impact to the county school system by estimating the number of children living in said development. I reviewed their entire proposal. I did not see anything about children, number of families, etc. Maybe I missed it because I was rushed, but all I saw was a quote. Schools are planning to handle growth, unquote. Okay, and that's all I have. Thank you.
We still got another minute, so.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Pratt. I live directly across the street at 1111 Goshen Road. So I work in Effingham County and in Chatham County, and there is no other subdivision in Effingham County that would look like this subdivision. This one's so densely packed compared to all the other subdivisions. It would just be an eyesore and it would be out of place. There is one subdivision in Chatham County that is built like this, but talking to them, the residents there, they complain all the time about their neighbors being loud. The HOA doesn't do anything, doesn't enforce anything. It is just, it's constant bickering, and the crime rate has increased over there after talking to them, and it's just not a good idea. So that's all it is. Thank you.
We can take one more. Anybody else from the public?
I'm Richard Sumner. I live at 110 Magnolia, just north of Paterford. I live on 6 acres, and I'm against it. Are y'all going to change all the rulings now that people can have 6 acres and I can put that many houses on there like they do with this place? Y'all fight over 2 acres sometime. For somebody wants to put an extra house on 2 acres, and you won't let them do it. And it goes on all the time. I've got 6 acres. Can I put 24 or 18 houses on a 6 acre lot?
You can make application. We can't stop you from making.
That's what y'all gonna do. Y'all gonna change the whole county to do that? It's all about y'all. It's all about money. But I'm telling you, it's wrong. It is wrong.
With that, we've had the time to be heard from both sides. We'll close the public hearing and have some discussion upon the board. I think we probably need to try to answer some of the questions or get some answers from staff. And Mr. Keefe, you may have, because you took some notes down there too as well, some things we need to look at. There was one that was raised that a gentleman had a house, and so Mr. Alec, you might need to try to talk to these items that did sound concerning. There's a house at the corner. Remember the gentleman that came out and showed his house at the corner from this side? Yeah, I'll speak into the mic. Yeah. There's a house at the corner that'd be on the Goshen side that's up against Palaford there, that one lot. He's told me he has a pool, and it would be within 38 to 46 feet. Can you talk to us a little bit about talk to us a little bit about the setback, the buffer, and how much space is from that unit to first the property line? Is that property has a setback, I'm sure, for its pool of 25 feet or 15 or something.
So right in there would be privacy fence, 30-foot undisturbed buffer. And then it looks like it's probably something similar to that, 25 or 30 feet over to the property. And then it has a rear setback of 25 feet.
You say to the so what's the distance from the property line to the corner of the house?
So on these units, it's 25 feet rear setback. So it'll be 25 feet, plus another 25 feet, so 130 feet to the property line roughly.
Okay. I don't know if that helps the gentleman that said that, it says it should be 130 foot to the property line.
So these,
And then if the pool
this
is off of
what's
that, it
shown
should
on
be.
the, what's shown on these plans, these are the lots.
Yeah.
So these are not the buildings. So the buildings fit on the lot and they follow the setback. So there's a front setback of 15 feet, a side setback of 7.5 feet, a side setback of 15 feet at the street, and a rear setback of 25. So these are not new setbacks in the county. These are already being.
No, they're set. I just wanted to make sure that we had some appropriate distance if this were to be approved tonight, that it wouldn't put, I wouldn't want somebody within 48 feet of my pool either. So I just want to make sure that was not going to happen. Another thing was asked about the road adequate for fire, getting to a road. Is Clint here tonight? Still with us? He left? Is it,
He left for the evening, yeah.
does the board, can the board assume that this sketch plan, Clint has looked at it and he's agreeing that the fire, I know one we looked at recently in Ocean Hills, we looked at, we want to make sure fire could get in, turn around access, and
Well, if, did he address that at the TRC? I mean, if it doesn't meet code, it's not gonna get permitted.
okay, so if it hasn't been addressed, no matter what this board does tonight, that will have to be addressed, because I don't want to get in
That's right.
a situation where the fire truck can't get in and out.
They're not gonna be able to get a permit if
Okay.
it doesn't meet fire code.
Because there's still a technical review to take place, is that correct? That I
Yes, sir.
saw? Okay,
And,
all right.
and plan review, for the buildings.
Does this subdivision have any street parking? I know they got parking in the units and then off-street parking that's planned.
Yeah, so two parking spaces in the driveway and one in the garage, and then a few, about 20 spaces scattered in different areas for overflow spaces.
Okay.
And to,
You can't park anywhere else but those places that are marked for that. And I know it can become trouble if you get two cars parked on the street, then even a car can't go down unless that's a fire truck.
right, no on-street parking. So these are 24 feet wide roads. They'll be designed to meet the county's criteria. And we have addressed some comments in the fire chief, I believe. So we looked at providing a small parking area in the middle where the fire truck could turn around. There'll also be fire hydrant spaced per county code and other requirements for
You are looking
firefighting.
at it with our fire chief.
Yeah,
for
yes,
safety.
sir.
Okay. There was another concern that sounded reasonable to check out. This PD, I know we have the R5, which we have a lot of requirements in there on setbacks and so forth. Are there any variances from the R5 in this PD that we need to make sure that the board is aware of? That's material or immaterial or whatever? Is one of the comments that my constituents made was that this PD, they can do whatever they want, but just so the public knows, the PD becomes a zoning. You can only do what's in the PD. I guess I'm asking, are there any variances from an R5 zoning in this PD? And what are they?
So when we started off with the project, we thought about using the R5 and then coming with several variances. We thought it would be much more straightforward to come with a PD and show exactly, here's what we want to do. Here's the houses, here's the lot sizes, here's the setbacks. That becomes the zoning. So there's not, once it's approved, that's what governs the development. I believe lot sizes would be a variance.
That's the only one I've noted. I just want to make sure the other
I think-
setbacks and everything else is pretty
Yeah.
much in line, right?
Road frontage, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, if, with the PD, if the applicant were to, want to for some reason add more lots or do any type of significant change, they would have to come back before staff and before your board to do any of those changes. So,
Well, and that's one reason, not just for this project, but any project. I've been a proponent sometimes of PDs because we get to speak into it more, green space, safety things, whatever we want to, because it becomes the zone. Okay. There was a question about stormwater that might impact the well system of the community well. Can you enlighten us on what that,
So,
how that's addressed?
so the ponds are shown pretty conceptually. We have not designed them. That comes later.
What protections are there for the public in that area?
We do have, so there's a requirement for wells to be, 100 feet away from pollution sources like septic tanks and drain fields, and at least 50 feet away from, like an open body of water. So we already have, a 30-foot undisturbed buffer. So there's already some setback distance required. I don't know exactly where their community well is, but the community well is not connected to the surficial aquifer where the pond is. It's no interconnection, no chance of it becoming.
Is that something staff will be looking at to just see where the detention pond is related to the community water system to make sure
That's part of site plan review.
Correct.
Okay.
So when they come up with their permanent
So that'll be reviewed
pond
to make sure that
location, they'll-
in a hurry or rain, it wouldn't
Right.
flood over into it. Okay, so we'll make sure that's reviewed and looked at. And then you mentioned earlier about the traffic, somebody mentioned about traffic on Goshen trying to turn in. And staff might can answer this. I know we haven't finished the design of Goshen, or have we finished that design? Is it close?
Yeah, and so we did do a
Because my question,
corridor
I think there's
plan.
gonna be a third lane there.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Go
So
ahead.
just on that side of the railroad tracks, there will be there will be a third lane going into the railroad tracks. So it'll terminate right before the railroad tracks. So you'll have the 3 lane. They would be required well,
East
considering
lane?
we're probably building the road simultaneously to them building this, there would be a turn lane going into the neighborhood as well.
Would there be any decel, XL lanes there?
Well, there would be there wouldn't be an XL lane because when you come out, it would be, you immediately, if you're making a right-hand turn, you'd immediately go and
Okay.
hitting the
You
tracks,
don't really
right?
need decel because you make a left turn in, you've
Yeah,
got the
but there would
third
be a
lane.
decel lane.
Third lane.
Going into it.
So,
that's one
so
of the
we are
questions-
required to do a traffic study as part of the development plans. The
Correct.
traffic study would be something that would work in conjunction with the county's plans, and then that would dictate what improvements at the entrance would be. At the very minimum, it would be a right turn lane, and then, depending on how the center lane is the county's working on, and what the actual traffic counts and others dictate would be what we actually do. So that's a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, I think that's
not
gonna
zoning.
hopefully answer a lot of, the whole of Goshen Road, that third lane where, because there's a concern when someone else will turn left into a subdivision, and traffic gets backed up behind them. If we had a third lane they can pull off into, then traffic can continue to flow. That's gonna be important. And I think staff's answering that question, there will be a third lane at that particular junction. The units per acre, I think we've answered that already.
Yes, Alec wants to kind of speak to that. I know we spoke about
Okay.
that at planning board as well.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to measure density. One is gross density. That's the total acreage of the property divided by the lots. That's 2.6 units per acre. Net density is the developable acreage, so you take off your wetlands and some of the other areas, the open space, the lot areas, all that counts as part of your development. So we're asking for, extra density, but we're giving up, extra green space also to have nicer areas. So that is 3.1 units per acre net density. So what we're asking for is 4 units or less, which is comparable with R5. If you just take the lot area, quickly, it's about 6.18 acres of actual just lots.
Gotcha, understand.
So
Okay.
that's about 12 units per acre,
All right.
just on the lots. But, you know, that's the reason we're doing the green space and the open areas is to be able to ask for extra density.
Understand. All right, I try to take notes and try to answer some of the questions that constituents have asked. The board may have noticed some things I didn't note or didn't note is significant enough to ask, so I'll see what the board has in discussion or questions for you or anyone else tonight.
The planning board had issues with the density, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's why they recommended denial.
Yes, sir.
Was it unanimous?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't see their paperwork.
It was unanimous.
It was, and what their issue was the actual units on the acreage. So they
Give you a suggestion of what they would tolerate or what they could be satisfied with?
no. So, you know, that's not part of the county's zoning ordinance. You know, that's not part of the county's rules. So, you know, we're trying to go by what is allowed, and meet that density. So, you know, you can't just take it pieces out here and there. We're trying to take a piece of property and preserve big chunks of it as open space and green space, and then have areas that are highly dense.
I guess whether, and correct me if he's only to speak up here, what they're trying to address is that the R5, for example, tells you how many units you can have per acre on that block.
Yes.
It doesn't tell you how many you can put in an actual acre.
That's
Am I correct on that? If it does, clarify for us.
That is correct.
That's what
It
it's
measured it
saying.
in net density.
You may get 10 on an acre or 7 on an acre, but you gotta have so many acres because you can't get more than 4 for the whole thing. Just a point of clarification. So the planning board may be looking at density as how tightly they are together. But I don't know that, does our zoning look at how close they are? I mean, I just, point of clarification.
It's listed as net density.
You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think our zoning does not address how close, they address how much you can do for the total acreage.
Yes, it's net
Makes
density.
sense? And then the sketch plan has to design it in a way that,
Right, but we're just looking at zoning now. This is just an idea of what they want to do. I mean, we could approve the zoning and deny the sketch plan based on density, correct?
And that's,
Yes, sir.
yes, you could.
and that's kind of exactly opposite of what the planning board recommended. They approved the sketch plan
They approved
because
the
they
sketch
liked
plan.
that we worked and tried to keep the open areas
I like the fact that y'all
away
listened
and
to
face the lots a certain direction, and they liked the sketch plan, so it
I
was.
noticed that too, they approved the sketch plan. That was kind of,
An important point to remember, we did the PUD, the PD, so that otherwise they could come for the R5, ask for the variances, and probably be able to argue because of the shape of the property. That's one of the criteria. You know, so this, to me, the PD gives them room to actually make a better product than they could with getting asking for an R5 and getting it with variances, if that makes sense.
I understand.
I remember when this came up 6-8 months ago, the concern was the properties came backed up to the residents and the trees up front. There was no discussion of the railroad. Now they've moved it to the other side, and now there's concerns about the railroad tracks. There's a huge space between these homes in the back of these residents. There's only 2 lots that get near anybody. I don't see the huge concern as far as the houses. This house in Paterford, those are $400,000 or $500,000 houses, I'm sure. We're not building all brick houses. Nobody can afford them. So that's the reason builders are looking at these different type homes, because people can't afford to build an all brick home up here now. Personally, I support the rezoning. It's the church's property. They're trying to work within our ordinances and with the community. And, I think they've done that. So, that's not too bad. This is Roger's district. I wish he was here. I think he spoke a few.
He texted me those, as long as it was 450 feet off, he said, he's gonna make sure you heard that. And, the COs would be after the parkway. He was good with it. That was his comments. But that's just him.
Well, looks like everything else, they are adhering to the zoning ordinance. I did speak with Commissioner Burdette, and that was one of his main points of contention was want to make sure the houses started 450 feet back behind the oak trees. And as far as from tonight to where we started, I mean, the applicant has made changes.
If there's any other comments, make them. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny.
You have a comment?
No, I was just gonna make, I went back, the last time this came before the board, and one of my biggest concerns was the homes along Goshen Road. From an appearance, trying to preserve those main thoroughfares. But I believe they were right on Goshen Road, if I recall.
Right, these are far enough back of the trees. I mean, unless somebody drives back in there, they're not gonna see these homes. The people of Paddleford aren't gonna see these homes unless they drive over them, or go through the neighborhood.
Yes, I think that's one of
Drive in there,
the,
you will, but
the,
you got somebody to decide of it. I mean, I'm not supposed to address those. People, the gentleman that said, we're changing everything, when property changes hands, the new owner has the right to petition this board. And that's how these things happen. The church has made a decision to monetize that asset, and they're trying to work with the people, and they're doing it within our ordinance. And I think that's to give them the right, every individual has the right to control their property. That's what these folks are trying to do, and they're trying to do it in a way not to impact you by moving all the houses to the far side near the railroad tracks. I don't know what else could be put back there that everybody would agree with. I think they tried.
Different rules every time.
I'm talking to the.
Different rules every time.
we've had a public hearing. So we've had a lot of discussion. I'm gonna entertain a motion. You make a motion to deny, or you make a motion to approve, and we'll see if we get a second.
You said Roger's position was that if it was 450 feet,
He sent those two comments to me that he wanted those two things assured.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously.
Chairman Corbett, just for clarification, approval with any recommendation or stipulations?
No, I don't think so, because the two things that the Commissioner Burdette asked for is in the sketch plan or, what's in the sketch plan?
So no other stipulations on the rezoning, not even staff's recommendations?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry,
Well, that's part of the, let me see.
that's part of our plan.
You just said approved, he
Oh,
didn't
pre-
say
well,
alternative.
is alternative
Well,
one with staff and planning, well, can't.
Why don't you
put
do
planning board.
that? Let's add to your motion, approval with staff and planning board recommendations.
Planning board denied it. It would be planning with staff
Okay,
recommendations.
staff
That's
recommendations.
my motion.
So the motion is approved with staff recommendations.
reaffirm it
Your second will be confirmed with that? Okay. And then all in favor was aye? Any
Yes.
opposed, no? Does that satisfy the motion, Madam Clerk? All right. So we don't have any additional conditions, so we can do the second reading and then look at the sketch plan. Second reading is consideration to approve the second reading and application by Simcoe Investments Group LLC as agent for Grace Community Church of Effingham County, Georgia, Incorporated, to rezone 29.6, 39.94 acres located on Goshen Road from R1 to PD to allow for residential development, map number 451, parcel number 21, the second district. Motion for the second reading?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, second reading passes unanimously. Now we need to go back to the sketch plan, because that's gonna be critical to. So we've through with that part.
Sir?
We're through that part. Quick question if you want.
You don't give the contractor twice to talk about it. I just
I
want
gave
to
the same
know,
amount of time to both sides.
when I have to lower my well, because all these subdivisions sucking water out of the ground, are you, as far as gonna pay to lower my well for me?
Let me answer that question. We got to move on. This is going to be on surface water. It does not affect the aquifer. It will not impact your well. We get our water from that end of the county from Savannah on surface water. It does not impact well water. Zero.
Them farmers started sinking them 6-inch wells up in Effingham County. I had to lower my well up
That
there.
has nothing to do with us. This is surface water. I answered the question there.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Green ant.
We're going to go to item number 1. The planning board recommends approval and application by Simcoe Investment Group LLC for its sketch plan located on Goshen Road for Goshen Church Tract. This is proposed zone in PDR, map number 451, parcel number 2 in the first district. So we're going to look at the sketch plan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Planner 2, Samantha Easton. Planning board did recommend approval, however, staff does recommend denial. The side of the
Give it just a
parcel.
minute so people who want to dismiss can dismiss.
See you later, Forrest.
Take care, Mr. Blakey. Good seeing you.
Good thing, bud.
Yes, sir.
All righty. You can go ahead.
Yes, sir. So staff is recommending denial. Planning board recommended approval. The buffer on the railroad track side, sorry. So there should be a 150-foot right-of-way for the railroad track, a 25-foot buffer, and then an additional an additional 20-foot vegetative buffer. So it should actually be 45, not just the 25, of vegetative buffer on the railroad track side. I did speak with our fire chief, our EMS director, and our sheriff regarding this sketch plan. They have requested an additional turnaround located towards the front of the property of some type. So we do ask if you do vote to approve this, please make that a condition.
Okay, is that only 2 items?
80, I'm sorry, that's the 80-foot turnaround, sorry.
On an 80-foot turnaround.
Yes, sir. To give the fire trucks plenty of room.
All right, Mr. Alex, I see you moving forward the microphone. You want to see if you can comply with these requirements?
Alec Metzger with EMC Engineering. I believe we've already discussed with staff and addressed those 2 items. So buffers are required along railroad tracks per county ordinance. It is a 25-foot buffer. It is not in the buffer ordinance. So the buffer ordinance is in a separate spot. And so what they brought up was they thought you should have a 25-foot buffer and then another buffer on the buffer to create a buffer. But they're 2 different spots in the code, and they don't really, I don't think that was the intention. So what we had talked about was just providing one 30-foot buffer that's undisturbed, and if it is open in anywhere, then we can plant it back with additional plantings. So that was that issue. The turnaround that we had suggested.
Right there, so I can get my head around that. Have y'all got a consensus that that's correct with the zoning?
Well, I think there's some, since it's in 2 different sections of the zoning ordinance, it becomes open to interpretation. So what we have in the buffer ordinance, it requires the, and I assume, is that the, from the property line, from the different property line, it requires a 20-foot? 30 foot. It requires 30 foot, but then in a separate portion of the ordinance, not in the buffer area, it requires for any railroad tracks, it requires a 25-foot buffer.
From the right-of-way.
From the right-of-way of the railroad tracks. So the question, our, you
Is
know,
it-
our position is it's both. But the,
It seemed like to me. it just-
I would interpret that as the larger of the buffers.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's
If it's
I mean,
25 foot from
that's
the
what I mean,
right of
and
way.
that's where it
Hang on.
opens
And I
up
can imagine
interpretation.
stacking both.
Yeah.
What are you trying to you know?
That existed,
Let me
that existed
restate this
prior
and
to
see
the
if-
buffer ordinance.
Alex, let me restate this to what Mr. Kiefer's saying, see if it works out what you're saying. So if it's 25 foot from the right of way and the 30 foot from the property line gets you 5 more feet, then it's the larger, right? If the 25 went further, because the 30 started earlier, it'd be the 25, but whatever's gives you the larger buffer.
Right, and that could be
That's how I would see
your
it.
interpretation, and because this is the first time this has come up since we've amended the buffer ordinance, I think that's probably, you know, one of the, we're going to address this question in a text amendment to the ordinance, so that it does probably clarify. So if we want it to be if there are two conflicting buffer ordinances or two buffer ordinances that apply, it will be interpreted as the larger of the two, which
But
I
not
think is
adding
how
them
you
together.
all
We're
are.
not adding them together like.
Right, that's
And the
right.
other part of that was the railroad right-of-ways vary so much in the county. Some of them are 150 feet, some of them are 30 feet. So they wanted to make sure that in there that depending on the right-of-way width, it's depending on the length, so it could be interpreted both ways.
So if you had 150 foot right of way
You would
and 100 foot of that's undisturbed,
Yeah.
why do more than 25
Yeah,
undisturbed?
but you've got a better buffer than what the ordinance requires.
And this is just one instance it could come up because there are wetland buffers. There are other buffers, I guess, would apply the same way.
But staff would
Yeah,
be
what-
okay with the larger of the two, right?
That's
what
right.
you're saying now. Even though there's a denial that, because you wanted a larger buffer, now you're telling us as a board, y'all can work that out. The larger of the two would be the buffer, vegetated buffer.
And that's right. So it's not as if it's a straight conflict. It is not that it conflicts with the ordinance. Is that
Interpretation.
because it's an interpretation issue.
And I can appreciate staff for
So,
not wanting to.
yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate, you don't take it on yourself, but that could be handled in the technical review, whatever you call it, that.
Sure. If you all approve the sketch plan, then you're effectively saying the 30-foot is adequate.
Which is the larger. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, I'm with you. I want to make sure I understood. That was a head full from my head. And then the turnaround, you adjusting that next? Everybody understands we'll be approving the 30, which is the
Yeah, yeah,
larger,
yeah.
which sounds like the way the staff's going with their interpretation.
Yeah, so it would be a 30-foot buffer along the railroad,
Yeah.
undisturbed.
I think we all on
The,
page.
the other side of the property along Paddleford, we do have a buffer and a fence. We could reduce it, but we're gonna stay with 30 feet and a fence. The turnaround, we did add a small, right in the curve in the corner. I don't know if you can see it. So right in
Gotcha.
there.
Yep.
What we intended that to be, and we can work through on the technical review of the subdivision, but that would be kind of in the midpoint. It could serve as a parking area and a kind of a hammerhead turnaround movement. So a fire truck could pull there. If it got stuck for some reason, it could pull in, back out, and leave. And so it would serve two purposes: fire department turnaround and also some overflow parking area.
So we'd have to note that tonight as in addition to the sketch plan we're being presented, right?
It's on the sketch plan that you have,
Oh, okay,
I believe. If it's the one up here.
okay. All right.
And
Sounds
it's
good.
noted as both.
Anything else on the sketch plan from anyone?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What?
I can't hear you.
Does not allow for hammerheads.
Well, hey,
She's saying the ordinance does not allow for hammerheads.
the PD ordinance?
It's a PD, that's true. So it's,
Well, it's not a hammerhead.
It's not a real.
Not a
Not a
hammerhead.
hammerhead.
It's
Just a
a
turnabout?
parking lot. Right? That's what you're saying?
And he
It's
mentioned
for-
it works like a hammerhead, but it's not a hammerhead.
Yeah, it's just a turnaround that would meet requirements with the radiuses and everything for a fire
parking
truck.
lot.
Yeah.
Small parking lot.
it can be used for, gotcha. Does that make sense? But I hear you, because I know we had that recently with another request, so we got a conflict between a cul-de-sac and a hammerhead, so it's a good point.
But you're right, we don't allow hammerheads.
But I think what they're trying to do is comply with the requirement of the fire department, give us a place to turn around. And this is a parking lot they can use for a turnaround.
Correct. And it does have a cul-de-sac at the end that meets the code.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions, discussions on the sketch plan? I don't hear any additions or changes or corrections, so the alternative one is to approve the sketch plan for Goshen Church track. Is there anything we need to add to that language?
Because it's
It's all in here.
buffers, that 30 foot is addressed in it, so, I'll make that,
Motion for alternative one.
yes, so moved.
Motion, Mr. Kiefer, for alternative one. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, sketch plan is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good. All right, item number 2 is a sketch plan. The planning board recommends approval of an application by Craig Johnson for a sketch plan located on Stillwell Road for Stillwell Pines, zoned AR1, map number 427, parcel number 14B in the 4th district.
I'm gonna wait for them to leave.
They're not being very,
Samantha Easton, Planner 2. Planning Board did vote to approve this sketch plan for Stillwell Pines on March 12th. Sorry.
Take your time.
The ordinance does require the parking lot to be paved due to it servicing business services and professional services off-street areas for retail sales and services, business services and professional services are required to be paved. The access is off of Stillwell Road, and like I said, Planning Board voted to approve.
Planning board supported it, staff denied it.
Yes, sir, just based on, small things, they have submitted a updated one since this was wrote, or since it went to planning board, showing the wetlands, and I think the scaling issues were corrected.
Sounds like there's a whole list of things that need to be done before staff would approve the sketch plan. Am I looking at this correctly?
Most of these items are on the submitted one.
Sorry?
But the items are on the submitted one. The only one that's not is if the building exceeds the 5,000 square foot. The Georgia Soil and Water would be.
So all these items that you had in here in the staff report is addressed except for the one that says impervious surfaces exceed 5,000 square feet.
Yes, sir.
And then disturbing activity permit with Georgia Soil and Water Conservation approval is required.
Yes, sir, and that's handled after this will be approved.
Right, so that would be a condition that staff is saying that approval.
Yes, sir.
Before you
If it goes over 5,000, yes, sir.
Is there 5,000 feet? Okay. All right, help me with this. So the approval of the sketch plan, does that include that it would, is it understood they gotta come back if it's over 5,000 feet?
You would need to add that as a condition.
Huh?
You would need to add that as a condition.
Any questions or discussion from the board before I call for a motion? Yeah, come on, Mr. Craig.
Good afternoon, Craig Johnson. Sam, real quick, the 5,000 square feet, you talking parking or? Okay, but the building's under 5,000. What we discussed in the last planning board is, some of the requirements as far as, retail, sales, services, that sort of stuff. This is a wedding venue. I'm not open to the public. No one is coming off the street. It is a private rented space. Come look at it. If it meets your needs, you rent it. We discussed paving and asphalt. I am pouring a 24 by 24 handicap parking, van accessible. We discussed, and they were in agreement with putting a rock base down for parking. I have the only asphalt parking lot in Stillwell, Georgia. Then we're looking at retention pond and the water. Now, I think Sam did clarify that most of the items that were on that list were handled.
Been addressed. That one, question I would have is that there are certain rock surfaces like crush and run that are considered non-pervious surfaces. Isn't that right? Impervious. Okay, so you have to be careful. It can't be that. So I think what they're saying is that they're good with the sketch plan, except for if the total impervious surface would ever increase over 5,000, you'd have to get a land disturbance permit. You just couldn't go out and then put crush and run on 2,000 feet and your buildings say 4,000, now you're over that limit. They would have to have a Georgia Soil and Water land disturbance permit to address that water situation.
And what we looked at before is, I said, well, they can park on the grass.
I don't think there's anything wrong with grass. Am I correct? And we're talking about, the only condition she's got here is.
That's why I said rock.
How big is your building?
4,300 under
So
roof.
basically, if you put anything more than 700 feet of crush and run or pavement or asphalt or anything, you gotta come get a land disturbance permit, is what they're saying. Am I correct?
So if I'm understanding you right, then, because the engineers were saying they're not good with grass parking. They wanted, and what Samantha had read out before, I didn't think I fall on any of these criteria as far as sales service, professional service, or anything like that, as far as general public coming in off the street having an expectation of different facilities.
Georgia Soil and Water is limited to those, but I don't know.
UM didn't like the parking on grass. Doug didn't
I
find
get it,
anything.
but I think impervious surfaces doesn't depend on whether there's any retail sales and all going on.
Right, no, that was saying that you have to have asphalt parking or concrete parking.
Right, if
in
you
the
have
ordinance.
that.
Correct.
I think if you nail it all, bore it all down, you've got 4,300 square feet. And I hear staff saying, y'all couldn't, if it goes over 5,000, which is, you could put another 700 feet somewhere for handicap or low parking. But anything that becomes impervious surface for over 700 more feet, you'll have to go through them to get a land disturbance.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you're telling me you like grass, I'm good with grass.
I'm not saying that qualifies for what they
Right,
want.
right.
They may say, you know what, for this facility, you've got to have a 2,000 impervious surface. parking lot. I don't know what the.
Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
so if it hits that 5,000 square feet of impervious surface, be it your building and your parking lot and, whatever else you have on your lot. So our ordinance does say that once you hit that 5,000 square feet, then you do have to come in, with your soil erosion control plan, and your stormwater, and county staff has to, review that. So that would be our county engineer. For the state permit, that's if you clear more than an acre of your property. That's when you would apply to the Georgia Soil and Water Conservation. So, so when you do, or if you do hit that 5,000 square feet, that is when you would want to submit to our county engineer your soil erosion control plan.
That's what I think I was saying, but what he's
Yes, sir.
asking is there a requirement that he have some paved surface for his facility? Is there a requirement?
Would be, if we do, it would be in our ordinance.
It is in our ordinance, and
Is there a requirement?
I think that is what Samantha was.
Answer that question. Is there a requirement for his facility to have any impervious paving surface?
So it is required for professional services, retail sales and services, business services, and other things that the general public will have access to. So that is up to your interpretation.
Somebody please interpret, because that's what he's asking. If you're gonna require him to do 2,000 to 3,000 feet for that building, he needs to know.
I hate seas of asphalt and concrete for no good reason.
I agree, and I'm with him. I want to tell him.
And that's my
I don't want to tell him to
concern.
put grass though. If our ordinance says you got to have some asphalt,
Oh, I know, yeah, no, it depends on our ordinance.
And that was my concern, is the verbiage is, I'm not technically open to the general public. There is no restaurant or shopping you coming off the street.
Steve, have you put some thought in this? Can you give us some interpretation here?
I have.
All right, come to the microphone, please, sir. I don't want to belabor this, but I don't want to confuse, I don't want to confuse constituents.
So at the planning board, I agree with Commissioner Kiefer that we don't want to pave over the entire county. Right now, our ordinance does say that commercial activities have to have some type of paving off of the entrance back to the structure. EOM has enforced that since we were hired and since it was written down. I know in this particular instance, being an AR1 and being the amount of acreage that he has, that we talked about, I'll call it pea gravel, not number 5 or number 7 gravel, pea gravel, which would allow a little more infiltration of the moisture. We said that we would be willing to look at that because we still have to enforce the soil and erosion control. But if he goes over that, again, that 5,000 square feet, it's still in-house, so we still have the mechanisms in place to alter something that didn't work or, you know, it started to come out on the road or something like that. So we still have that in there. He is not, I don't think, from what we've seen, a disturb an acre. He's probably not gonna have to go to the state. But if you know, that paving over is a requirement, but you have the ability to say, hey, you know, we'd just like to see maybe some gravel and some, you know, grass lots or something like that. Let's test it out. Let's see how it's gonna be, because I think it's gonna work that way.
So the pea gravel is considered pervious. Right.
It doesn't, when it packs down,
It's considered pervious. You know that.
I will say that it's more pervious than the other gravel.
So is the staff recommending this now that we've got all this worked out?
Yes.
Okay.
What's at the event venue of All Road?
They also have grass and they have gravel.
Okay.
And there were some issues with, before they put the gravel down the road, remember it was dirt road?
Did they get a land disturbance?
And yes, they've got that done. They got stormwater
Did they get
through
a
it.
land disturbance permit? I don't think they did.
No, because they didn't disturb over an acre. They kept but that's how we mitigated that as well.
Okay, it's very similar, so we need to be consistent.
Yes.
I think I got everything I need.
To me, this is very similar to the ag business.
Yeah.
What's the occupancy load on the building? Have you done that calculation?
Going off what the septic can handle in a 24-hour period, we're looking at 125.
And if you look at McCall Road, it's very similar to what they're doing out there. So I can't see the difference. It's just be consistent for right now. There needs to be some clarification for future. I'd say staff work on it.
How many churches around the county have more than that? And they have their little, every Sunday, they fill up a dirt parking lot.
Now, the only thing that planning did suggest, and I was good with, is from the edge of Stillwell Road back to my side of the culvert pipe, some sort of asphalt other than just
Well, you got
loose,
700 feet, so you can
loose
get that,
rock.
you can get that in there,
Right.
so you're good.
And as far as runoff to the road, everything I got runs to the 15 acres behind me, so.
I've been out there, so.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna bring this to a close unless there are other questions. I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve the sketch plan for Stillwell Pines.
I'll make a motion to approve the sketch plan as presented and adding some gravel and grass in the parking area.
So that's a,
Second.
okay, got a motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it is passed as expressed. Item number 3, staff recommends approval of an application by James Dasher for a sketch plan located at Earl Lane Road for Westgate Phase 1, Zone PDR, map number 436, parcel number 3, and map number 435, parcel number 21, 21A, and 21B in the 2nd District.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Samantha Easton, Planner 2. You've already seen this sketch plan during the PD text amendment previously. The board did not vote to remove the condition of the sketch plan coming back before you, so this is just more of a formality. Staff is recommending alternative 1.
Any questions, discussions regarding the alternative 1?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
First, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Floyd for alternative one. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 4, staff and planning board recommends approving an application by Steve Murray requesting a variance from section 3.38.6 to allow for a reduction in required road frontage for a billboard located on US Highway 80, Zone B2, map number 378, parcel number 11 in the first district.
Yes, sir. So the applicant would like to erect a digital billboard at this parcel. It does have frontage on both Highway 17 and Highway 80. The applicant meets all other requirements to have the billboard, with the exception of the road frontage needed. As you can see, it has approximately 165 feet of frontage along Highway 80 and approximately 152 feet of frontage along Highway 17. Staff and planning board are recommending alternative number 1. The frontage needed is 200 feet along a state or federal highway, and staff does recommend alternative number 1.
Okay.
The little piece right there at
I know
17, I mean, that's, it's good for nothing else, so.
You can't build any buildings on there. Let them put a sign on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, any question, discussion, motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one. Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Deloach for alternative one. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Wait a minute, this is shut a public hearing. Public hearing. I'm gonna back up. Is there anybody here wanting to speak in favor or opposition to this variance? Anyone speaking in favor or oppositions? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Attorney, do I need to ask for the vote?
Do it.
Do? All right. After the public hearing, we're going to scratch that other vote. We'll make another motion, please.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative one after our public hearing. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 5, which is our second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Steve Murray requesting a variance from section 3.38.6 to allow for reduction in required road frontage on a billboard located on US Highway 80, Zone B2, map number 378, parcel number 11 in the first district. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 6 is a public hearing. Staff Planning Board recommends approving the application by Keith Blocker, EB Miles Properties Incorporated to rezone 9.21 of 11.03 acres located on Highway 80 West from AR1 to B3 to allow for the subdivision and change of land use, map number 378, parcel number 6 and 7 in the first district.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is proposing to rezone the 9.21 acres of the 11.03 acres to prepare this parcel for commercial development. The applicant would like to combine part of the parcel to the east, which is, let's see, 378-7, with this parcel to have the adequate entrance, as you can see here on the plat. The future land use map does show these parcels as agricultural residential, and then the parcel 378-7 as commercial for future use. However, both of these parcels are projected within the commercial corridor character area. Staff and planning board do recommend alternative number 1. So I know it's a little confusing, but it is this. You can see my cursor here. It is this piece right here that they are combining with the commercial part, and then this piece here is already commercial. They have to zone this piece commercial.
Okay, I got you. I didn't see it drawn that well on this map.
There you go.
I couldn't picture it. It makes more sense. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning request? Anyone speaking in opposition? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the staff and planning board recommendation.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Deloach, to approve the planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. We can do the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Keith Blocker, EB Miles Properties Incorporated to rezone 9.21 of 11.03 acres located on US Highway 80 West from AR1 to B3 to allow for the subdivision and change of land use, map number 378, parcel number 6 and 7 in the first district. Motion for the second reading.
Motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second, Mr. Kiefer, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 8, it's a public hearing. Staff and Planning Board recommends approving an application by Vincent Helmy as agent for William Earl Barton Jr. and Trada Hodges to rezone 2.94 acres located on Harvey Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the subdivision to create a home site. Map number 303, parcel number 28 in the first district.
Yes, sir. So this parcel located on Harvey Road, it is actually currently a non-conforming AR1 lot. They would like to subdivide the parcel. In doing so, this does require us to bring it into zoning conformance. The lots will be less than 5 acres, of course, and therefore need to be rezoned to AR2. This is consistent with the future land use map, as it is projected to be agricultural residential, and staff and planning board recommend alternative number 1.
All right, anyone speaking in favor or opposition to this rezoning request that would like to speak? Anyone? Seeing no one coming forward, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Deloach to approve planning board and staff recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. We can do the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Vincent Helmy as agent for William Earl Barton Jr. and Trada Hodge to rezone 2.94 acres located on Harvey Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the subdivision to create a home site, map number 303, parcel 28 in the first district. Motion.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Deloach for the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. And we go down to number 12, because we already did 10 and 11. Staff and Planning Board recommends approving an application by Stephen Lanier to rezone 1 acre out of 1.92 acres located on Sister Ferry Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a non-conforming parcel to be brought into compliance. Map number 386, parcel number 36 in 3rd District.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is proposing to recombine part of this parcel, the 386-36. I'm sorry, I lost my place. With 386-43, and the rest will be subdivided due to the parcel being below the 5-acre threshold, and the property lines being shifted. We do need to bring this parcel into zoning conformance. If you can see here, it is kind of hard to see the red line, but this part of the parcel that is subdivided by the small easement is being combined into this larger tract, and then this will be the parcel that is left as the AR2. So staff and planning board recommend alternative.
Okay, we're in a public hearing. Anyone speaking in favor or against this rezoning request? Anyone speaking in favor or against? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff and planning board recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Floyd to approve the staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Stephen Lanier to rezone 1 of 1.92 acres located on Sister Ferry Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a non-conforming parcel to be brought into compliance. Bet number 386, parcel number 36 in the 3rd District.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 14, Staff and Planning Board recommends approving an application by Anita Butler as agent for Jack L. Edwards to rezone 3.11 of 31.58 acres located on Corinth Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create a new home site, map number 312, parcel number 1 in 3rd District.
Yes, sir. So the applicant would like to subdivide the 3.11 acres to deed it to a family member. Due to the new acreage falling below that 5-acre threshold for AR1, the new parcel will need to be rezoned to AR2. Staff and Planning Board recommend alternative number 1.
Anyone in the public like to speak for or against this rezoning request? Anyone speaking for or against? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Floyd to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. We can do the second reading since there are no conditions added. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Anita Butler as agent for Jack L. Edwards to rezone 3.11. Am I doing the right one?
Yeah.
Okay. Acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for subdivision to create a new home site located at Corinth Church Road, map number 312, parcel number 1 in 3rd District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Floyd, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, second reading is approved unanimously. Item number 16, public hearing. Staff and Planning Board recommends approving an application by Sue Anderson as agent for SB Homes LLC to rezone 5.272 acres located on Old Louisville Road from AR1 to R1 to allow for an addition to a residential lot, map number 272, parcel number 27A in the 3rd District.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting to rezone to R1 as the parcel to the west, 272-29. The applicant does own this and is also zoned R1. As you can see, the parcel is also surrounded by R1, and these parcels are currently served by the City of Guyton Water and private septic systems. I will give you kind of a heads up. There was a little bit of a mix-up with this one. It was supposed to be both of these parcels, so you will see the second parcel come before you at the next meeting. There was a little bit of a mix-up with advertising and signs, so we'll be fixing that at the next meeting. So for now, it is just this first parcel, but staff and planning board do recommend alternative number 1.
Anyone speaking in favor or against this rezoning request? Anyone? Okay.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank y'all for y'all's service. I was just curious to know, is there one house going on it? What's your plan?
We don't know at this point. It's just rezoning, and it's, as you see, all the, I don't know if you'll call it pink or purple, all of that around there is zoned R1, which is what they're wanting to zone that to. So the zoning request is consistent for the neighboring area.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
But in short, R1 does allow for that.
So right now,
Clear.
yes,
It could
sir.
be multiple houses on there.
It could be. They would have to subdivide.
Subdivide it, yeah.
And with the allowance of, with the septic systems and then the City of Guyton Water, they can have half-acre lots.
They can only put one on
One
R1.
home per
But
lot.
they
but
have
can
to, they
be-
could get it subdivided because it's more than 5 acres. They could get 3 1-acre tracts. But that would be a whole nother hearing.
Yes.
So this is
Yes.
really, this is just step one in a process. So
So
this could be more
The
meetings
rest
coming
of
up.
us who would have something around it, and, okay. All right,
Any
thank you.
di-
Would get notification should they come in and want to do anything else with that property.
If they wanted to subdivide it and put more than one house on it, you would hear about it before it happened. You get a
Okay.
chance to talk to it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Any other,
Thank you for your time.
okay, anybody else speaking for or against?
Oh, major subdivision.
Anyone else speaking for or against? Hearing no one, seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Floyd to approve of staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, it passes unanimously. Item number 17, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Sue Anderson as agent for SB Homes LLC to rezone 5.272 acres located on Old Louisville Road from AR1 to R1 to allow for, in addition to residential lots, map number 272, parcel number 27A in the 3rd District. Motion?
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion, Mr. Loach, second, Mr. Floyd, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously. One public hearing left, and staff, the planning board recommends approving an application by Brooke Autry as agent for Young Long Liu to rezone 8.60 acres located on 2497 Highway 21 South from AR1 to B1 to allow for commercial business opportunities. Map number 429, parcel number 18A in the 5th District.
Yes, sir. So the applicant is requesting to rezone that 8.6 acres to B1 to allow for commercial business opportunities. To the north are AR1 zone parcels, and to the east is an I1 zone parcel. South those parcels are within, as you can see, the city of Springfield municipality. On your staff report, I have listed per the table of permitted uses what is permitted within that B1 zoning. This is within the commercial corridor character area, as you can see on the future land use map. And staff and planning board will recommend alternative number 1.
All right, we're in a public hearing. Anyone tonight speaking in favor of this rezoning request? They all want to be one?
I'm Brooke Autry, Mr. Liu's agent, and just if you have any questions.
All right, very good, thank you. We'll see if there's anyone speaking in opposition tonight to this rezoning request. Seeing no one coming forward to speak in opposition, we'll close the public hearing, see if the board has any questions. Since Ms. Autry's here, any questions? Okay, good. Motion to,
Make a motion to approve planning board and staff.
Second.
motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loach to approve with staff and planning board recommendations. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously. So we can do the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Brooke Autry as agent for Young Rong Liu to rezone 8.6 acres located at 2497 Highway 21 South from AR1 to B1 to allow for commercial business opportunities, map number 429, parcel number 18A in the 5th District.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loach to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Hearing no no's, it passes unanimously. So I think that concludes all of our business tonight. If anybody sees anything I missed, let me know. And we'll go back to our staff reports and commissioners updates. So reports from commissioners and staff. We'll start with our staff, that's okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the two announcements. One is that at the last, or I think 2 meetings ago, we approved the contract for the expansion of this facility. It will require the temporary relocation of the manager's and clerk's office, and that includes your offices as well. We did manage to fit everyone in this building, so we wouldn't have to relocate to a different address. But you will have to, if you have anything in your desks upstairs, you probably want to grab it because they're going to be moving the furniture out. And that will be on the 15th is when that kickoff is. But it should only last, as was promised to us and myself and the chairman, to approximately September, first week in September. The next up is, and this is for District 2, that's our next up in the Town Hall series. That will be at South Effingham Elementary, and it will be on April 11th.
Was on the first one plus some District 2 stuff, or is there going to be a lot of changes? Because I think
For the most part, except for roads, because we will concentrate on the roads in District 2 and kind of the, maybe some kind of neighboring areas of roads that share between there, just because there's so many road projects coming up. I don't, people will get lost if I try to include them all on there.
Anything
6
else?
o'clock?
Anything else?
That's it.
We got a ACCG at the end of the month, right?
Got anything?
Just would reiterate what Tim said. I was glad to hear we'd be done by September 1. I'd heard 10 months or so we were going to be out of this building, and I was good to be tired. So they assured us we could be in here by mid-August, but September 1st is what they think. So that's not going to be quite as bad as I thought originally. So that's good.
Be a little noisy for a few months, but we'll be back in here.
Yeah, that's good. I've got several things I want to cover with the board. We'll do that at the next workshop. We have a workshop at the next meeting, right?
Yes,
There'll
sir.
be more time for it then. I'll
Full
cover it.
schedule.
Hmm?
We have a full schedule for that workshop. A lot of things on it.
I just got a couple things I want to put before the board so they can start be thinking about it. I'll do that.
Okay.
So now that we approved the bond tonight for T-Splosh, and I know we're going to do District 1 and 2 at the beginning for those projects, have we got the RFP completed yet? I mean, are we getting close to
it's out
releasing the
for bid.
RFP for the contractor now? Or
It's out for bid, and
Okay.
And I think it will come back. Bids are due. Is it after the next meeting or?
And will this contractor that wins this RFP, are we using them for all of the T-Splosh projects? Or are we like
No,
breaking
it's just
this
for
up
this
in
batch, and then
this
we're gonna
batch?
bid out next. And just so you all know, the next batch, while it may be for probably District 2 and 5 maybe, or 2, 5, and 3, or something like that. We're just trying to do them in chunks. We'll also include some roads in the other districts because GDOT has approved an additional $1.3 million in LMIG funds for this year as part of the amended budget. And so we actually have to get we got to find additional road projects for those funds because we weren't expecting them.
That shouldn't be any problem.
So far, I've just been telling folks it's probably going to be, next summer, before District 3 has anything major done. And
I would say it's spring. Some of those projects in District 3 are very complicated. So
it's definitely some long roads we've got to take care of. But I mean, so far, just people, I'm kind of giving them a date. They seem to be satisfied.
Okay.
Things are moving forward. And I guess the last thing is, and I'm sure we're going to do this, but just for District 1 and District 2 commissioners, are we going to release kind of, I guess we have to wait to see which contractor it's going to be, and they kind of come up with the road list too. But are we going to release that information as well, just so people know that?
And we're going to do a much better job than we've done in the past of letting folks know in advance when that's going to occur. One of the things we didn't think about in the past was if we have roads that are being repaved on a Thursday, we got to make sure folks know that garbage may be just pickup may be disrupted that day. So we're going to work that out with Atlantic Waste. We're going to work it out with and make sure that we notify people whenever construction starts. We actually started doing that with this one, where with this last batch, where we've been a little bit better of letting folks get prepared. Yeah, but you want a date. He wanted dates. Dates.
Nothing. The legislative session is over, and I don't know if y'all have looked at some of the laws that passed. What Stephanie and Spencer reminded of. There's several that's going to affect the county. One being, building permits, assuming the governor signs it, that they can't be based off of construction costs. Tried to, I was pathetic on that one. I'm surprised that was good. But there's more.
He's got 30 days to sign,
He
right?
does.
Anything else? Is there anything else from any of the staff?
We need to
Nothing else from staff or commissions. We have executive session minutes. Consideration to approve the March 19th minutes. Got a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Floyd to approve the March 19th executive session minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, they are passed unanimously. I don't see any other items of business besides that, so
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Hearing no nos, we adjourn.
We're gonna talk about
Of mine.